So we are back at it again, doing a reaction. Now, I think I posted the Destiny reaction first. Um, this is a Hasan or Destiny interview first. This is an Hasan interview, much longer. I don't know if I'm going to react to the full thing, but this is on NPR. Now, Hasan might if you guys know my channel, I think Hasan Piker has terrible ideas, and I think he's a fucking idiot sometimes, oftentimes. Um, Obviously, he gets the benefit of the doubt because he's a handsome man who is able to interact with like other mainstream entertainers or social media mainstream entertainers. But ultimately, when it comes to Hasan Piker, his understanding of politics, or at the very least, his unwillingness to put nuance in it, is very problematic, and he's ruining the image of the Democrats. But with that said, I'm going to try to come into this with good faith. If I feel like I heard something that contradicts things that he said in the past, I will speak up. But let's maybe this is, I can't even say that because he made a recent clip where he says he doesn't care about the Democrat Party, and oh my god, whatever. Let's react to this. Let's do it.
Is that if you have to call yourself masculine or alpha, then you probably do not exhibit those qualities in general. People keep asking me whether or not we need a Joe Rogan to the left, or whether or not I am the Joe Rogan to the left. And I keep repeating to the Democrats, at least, that like a Joe Rogan is not going to solve their problems. They need to change their policies.
I think recently you said on Twitter or something like that all right, y'all, if you are a regular listener to this show, then you know that for the past couple of years, I have been very interested in the state of masculinity. We've talked about the rise of Habibi. Swept the Leg from Reddit says he is a himbo gateway drug to leftist thought. And lil.gay.ray from Instagram says, not to be dramatic, but I'd die for this man, LOL.
Bro, Hasan Piker fans, bro. I don't. Okay.
And Hasan, I don't know if I've ever heard the term himbo gateway drug before. Is that how you describe yourself?
Yeah, I think that nails it, I guess. Just gateway drug to empathy. in a himbo format.
I will say, I do think that this is like a super useful example to get into something else that is kind of going on. Like, you haven't just gotten attention for your politics. There's also been a lot of talk about your specific brand of masculinity. Earlier this year, you were profiled by the New York Times. And that headline was really something.
I think the original headline was Progressive Mind in a MAGA Body. That's what it was.
Yes, you are correct. The headline was Progressive Hasan Piker, a progressive mind in a MAGA body.
That there is something to that, right? In the sense that regardless of how terrible the idea is, if you were good looking, you get so much benefit of the doubt. I mean, people were listening to Andrew Tate's ridiculous messaging. If Hasan Piker wasn't like fit, tall, and handsome, he would not be popular because his ideas are fucking awful. And he's not that entertaining. And he's like kind of intelligent. The thing is with Hasan Piker, though, and that I do think this is an interesting litmus test, is that oftentimes figures on the left, they don't have that, right? Now, there's potential to have like a very pretty woman, like not so erudite, very pretty, right? But she's not blowing up because a lot of people will dismiss certain things that women say. So a powerful political figure when it comes to a woman, that doesn't really happen. I'm trying to think, like, I guess Candace Owens, but I feel like people grifted at Candace because she was a black woman criticizing black people. Brett Cooper, I think she was just a young woman criticizing young people. Yeah, it doesn't really happen based off like their ideas inherently. Like, your ideas are so good on top of how you look. Whereas when it comes to men, there are so many. I feel like I could pick out different examples of like, okay, attractive man says things, but his ideas are shit. But it doesn't matter because he's an attractive man, and maybe he might be surrounded with some beautiful women, like Andrew Tate, Myron Gaines, for example. Where am I going with this? Well, where I'm going with this is there's not a really that type of individual that's like popular, and maybe if the like center left had that, that would help them out, like a very fit, handsome individual. Um, that could help with like appealing to men. Because if someone from MAGA was talking shit to me and they thought about like certain things, and I'm like super fit, super handsome. Right now I'm fat, so I'm like getting there. And my teeth suck. So, we'll get there, but if I was that, it would be harder for them to be as bold in how they're talking. Um I don't know. I'm just like fucking yapping. I'm just yapping right now. But I do think that is interesting, don't you? In terms of like how looks and presentation can affect people's perception. That's why you got to take care of yourself. That's how you influence people, man. Unless you're Donald Trump, you can be fat and ugly and it doesn't matter because you have a lot of money.
But I have to ask, like, what is a MAGA body? Like,
I don't
do
know.
you know what that is?
No, I believe that they were trying to say that like this is the manosphere, and there's a lot of content creators in the manosphere that like work out. And I think that's what they were trying to point to. But like when you invoke the MAGA body, I don't think most people, New York Times readers or not, are going to look at that and think like a very brolic guy. They're going to think of, I don't know, someone like a normal American, the average American. The New York Times was specifically, I think, trying to invoke the image of this this masculine man who works out quite a bit.
I find it interesting, perhaps the everyday person.
Well, that assumption is made because they assume that a lot of people on the right advocate for ideas that are like red pill, which is like masculinity and being fit and all that stuff. And some of the more unhinged ones, like have like men boot camp and all that stuff, those are attributed to right wing ideas, was by default are attributed to MAGA ideas. Now, is that inherently true? If we like kind of break it down, fuck no. A lot of MAGA people look unhealthy as shit, but it's just the perception of like where these ideals fall align when it comes to the political spectrum.
I might think of a MAGA body as like, an everyday person's physique. Yet, it sounds like that headline kind of tied masculinity to a certain type of physique, or masculinity to MAGA, in a really specific way.
For sure. I think that's deliberate, and I think it's wrong. For which, like, I don't think masculinity is associated with MAGA. I don't even think masculinity is necessarily associated with working out. I think what we consider to be masculine is just confidence. That's what I believe is like the number one mistake that many people make when talking about masculinity. It's just an outward expression of confidence and like, I guess, a demonstration.
I actually agree to that. I agree to Hasan Piker. I agree to that.
Of leadership skills. That's what most of these people are pointing to when they talk about being alpha or being masculine in general, like a lot of these people online. The greatest rule of thumb, of course, is that if you have to call yourself masculine or alpha, then you probably do not exhibit those qualities in general.
You talk a lot about working out. You also like video games. And on top of all of that, you talk about politics on the internet. But these are very much right now activities associated with bro culture. Bros, I think, are often stereotypically considered to be conservative. Why do you think like these activities, like working out, video games, etc., why do you think they are so conservative coded?
I wouldn't say they're necessarily conservative coded. I would just simply say that they are easier to be branded as apolitical. I mean, there's a very funny long-standing joke or meme in the gaming sphere where people will say, "Oh, why do you have politics in my video games?" Like, get politics out of my video games is like this rallying cry from Gamergate onward, and it usually is deployed at any video game that has like a black female protagonist, and then immediately that's like being considered as political. It's like the two genders, white man and political, and these guys will unironically say things like Call of Duty is not political, or Call of Duty wasn't political until there was like a black woman in it. Yeah, they just don't understand that like Call of Duty has of course always been political. And it's sometimes making a criticism of American imperialism. In other instances, it's quite literally defending American imperialism, but it's never not political. It's just that
you always got to see the subtle jabs and like who Hasan is. Using the term American imperialism, for example, I was like on Hasan's side, and okay, so this is why I point that out. If any average person were to say that, I'll be like, oh, whatever, who cares? The reason why I'm pointing that out for Hasan is because I know for a fact he has so much criticism to the point where it seems like he hates America. based on how he talks about it. Because he always talks about the negatives of what America provides. He always talks about how America does all these terrible things in the world. And his lens on discussing the problems of society is always America bad, right? America obviously has done a lot of bad things in society, but so has like every country that exists in every society. That is, there's nothing, a perfect society, a pure good society that does not exist. So you can always find the bad, but it's always trying to make it better. That's the goal, right? So when I know that this is Hasan's ideology, when he says something like that, it already hints on the idea, or it already kind of sticks out that he's just pushing his America bad messaging because that's what he truly believes. But he overall, his sentiment is correct. His sentiment about how politics has always been embroiled in so many different means of entertainment. Call of Duty for sure. There's definitely politics in there. When it comes down to your favorite anime or manga, like Attack on Titan, definitely politics. Full Metal Alchemist has politics. But I think a lot of the people don't realize that this is politics because it's not current politics. They don't want current politics affecting them, but you can never escape it because this is how the world is. Politics is just a expression on how society shall be ran or should be run, right?
A lot of guys don't read it as politics when it's something that they agree with or aren't putting much thought into. And I think that's what happens in a lot of these spaces for a lot of these hobbies is that we cede territory to right-wing actors because they get to angle it as though, as though they're above the interests of politics. Don't try to read too much into this thing. Just enjoy it, which is interesting because I kind of do that as well. Like I say that same thing every now and then. Like I had Dr. Abdul El Sayed on yesterday. He's running for senator in Michigan. In the state of Michigan,
yeah.
He's great. He's also kind of a bro himself. He loves working out.
I've seen him post about it online for sure.
Yeah. And we were talking and he said something. He was like, I felt bad. I felt uncomfortable, but I really like Top Gun. And I was like, dude, you don't have to say that. Like, yeah, it was a good movie. Sure. It's a movie about American imperialism, but like, it's a good movie.
Another shot at America. Got to always point that out. Let's put a check mark. So Hasan has three shots at America. Let's keep track of that for this. I'm probably not going to watch this full thing. I'm not going to lie. But I agree with Hasan, though. I do think that oftentimes we let our politics dictate what we like because we're supposed to believe everything on our ideological spectrum. And I don't do that. That's why I don't try to claim that I'm a Democrat or Republican, a liberal Republican. I just say I'm independent. I let my values dictate what I believe. So if I like a movie, I don't give a fuck if it was, Republican based, whatever that fucking means. I'm watching it. I don't care if there's a movie that is considered woke. If it's good, I'm watching it. Now, if it's shit, then I'm gonna shit on it. Like the Nino Mia movie. I don't know if you guys seen it. Let me see if I can find it. I thought this was a really good movie, but some people might think it was woke because it had gay protagonists. The Mina. What the fuck was this movie? Oh, here we go. So this, make sure I find something that's like, because you never know with the internet, they could show you. So this is the movie I'm talking about, basically. This movie, Nimona. I thought Nimona was great. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I very much enjoyed myself. I don't care if one of the protagonists is a gay dude. I don't care if she's kind of, I don't know what you would call her. Maybe nothing. Maybe there's a hidden message about her being like amorphous. I don't give a fuck. All I know is this was a good movie. So I agree that politics can sometimes get in the way of you just enjoying something. Let's continue.
Sometimes it's okay to just be like, I like this. This is funny. I like this movie. This is a good movie. It was well shot.
But I wonder, his hesitation to embrace or even to openly embrace his love of Top Gun with him, and also sometimes other politicians or other public figures. There is.
All right, we're back.
Is this desire to not be associated with things that kind of bro culture? Do you think that there is almost like some I don't know, like some residue there or something that people don't want to touch or don't want to like associate themselves with right now in terms of like bros in general?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I think that there is still a heavy focus on the aesthetics for a lot of politicians on the liberal side of things, on the Democratic Party side of things, and I think that heavy focus on the optics of it all makes people a lot more careful when bracketing themselves in a certain way. I think that if they were more policy focused, it wouldn't really matter necessarily whether they are coming in this like broy veneer or not. But I think what's most important.
I think they are very policy focused. I don't know. I think the problem is that they don't care about the optics. I think it's reversed. The fact that they don't care about the optics is actually the issue, because people vote based off how they feel the majority of the time. And a lot of the policies that they implement, people don't even understand oftentimes on like what it does. Right. So I don't agree with
This is
that.
just be honest and be earnest and be who you are. That's what I am, at least. And that's why it's always funny when, the New York Times is writing about me and they ask me like, do you feel like this is a carefully crafted, perfectly balanced out character that you've created? And it's like, no, it's just no, I just grew up playing video games. I like playing basketball. I like competitive sports.
Like, sure, but I do think you are very careful with like how crazy left wing you are, depending on the platform you go on.
And I like working out. This is just who I am.
A lot of young guys go like have the same interest and end up going down another political pipeline. And you came out progressive. Like, what kind of caused your political development to lean toward progressivism?
I mean, growing up in Turkey, I always had a much more liberal slant, I would say, especially.
I'm noticing something. Wait. Where is Anna Kasparian from? So, why did I think did she come from? So Armenia. Her family came from Armenia. I think I'm noticing that. I'll keep that to myself.
Because I saw the formation of the Erdogan coalition, the Erdogan government, and I saw the repressive nature of conservatism. One of my first interactions with government repression in general, was when Recep Tayyip Erdogan sued one of the cartoon newspapers that I used to read with political satire. And that's when I was like, whoa, this is messed up. I don't really like this guy. Outside of that, I growing up in Turkey, always had an anti-imperialist slant, which is a given usually for people on that side of the planet who are privy to the negative consequences of American empire, who get to experience it firsthand, or at least secondhand. But when I came
American Empire, that's another one.
Came to the United States of America, I think that's what was like such a radicalizing moment for me. It was healthcare. It was the ambulance bill that I got when I was in college. I was like, this is insane.
What happened? If you can share. If not,
I just blacked out. I didn't call the ambulance myself. I just woke up at the hospital, and then I saw the bill, and I was like, I can't believe it.
And blacked out doing what, Hasan? That's what she asked. We probably you were at college. We probably know why you blacked out. Agree. Healthcare problem in America. I agree to that.
And I already had this attitude that a social democracy is perhaps the best possible way to go about things. Because I came from Turkey, I saw the importance of public education, free public college, and a nationalized healthcare system. Even if it's not the best funded, it's still really good that it exists, right? That's the attitude that I had. And then when I saw private healthcare here, I was like, oh, it's over. This is the worst thing on the planet. We need to put an end to this immediately. Whoever is doing this, they need to stop, was my initial attitude.
I could see how that would be a complete shock if it's something you never had to think about before. And you call an ambulance to pick you up in an emergency in a time of need, and then suddenly you're like, oh, this costs money. But I don't think it's something that anybody wants to think about when they're in like a low moment like that.
Yeah. And also I'll admit, like, I think I was too well educated at that point to be duped by some dude online being like, that's because of Mexicans that you have to pay for this ambulance. But I do think that in that moment of weakness, in that moment of anger and resentment, if there was someone out there who was charismatic and I wasn't very well read and I did not know that there was an alternative readily available, like a public healthcare system was readily available that I'd seen work in a much poorer country like Turkey, I probably would be like, I'm really pissed off. Who else is pissed off with me? And if you got a dude on YouTube saying, Yeah, I'm pissed off too. You know why we're pissed off though? Because the Democrats care about Mexicans and Guatemalans and trans people, and you should be pissed off about that. That's weird, right? And you know, all of that combined, I think, creates this perfect powder keg where young men who are already predisposed to reactionary tendencies find themselves swept away, desperate for a sense of community, desperate for an identity. They find themselves in right-wing circles, and they unironically wear it as a brand, where they think that being politically right-wing is a way to demonstrate your machismo, is a way to demonstrate how masculine you are. It's kind of funny because
I agree to a lot of what he's saying over there. There was something else I was going to say in terms of like the comparison of, in terms of being informed and how it relates to understanding the different nuances of healthcare from one country and the other, and the dynamics of why our healthcare is the way it is versus other countries. But ultimately, I don't really like how he said other healthcare systems are better because there's nuance there. But like, I get it. I do think if we want to articulate that our healthcare can be better, this type of messaging is important. So I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset he said that.
is not the case. And I feel like I brick a lot of people's brains for that reason. And then they see that and they just can't contend with it. Where like in a world where you look more like Ben Shapiro than myself, you want to believe that simply saying the things that Ben Shapiro is saying is going to make you more masculine.
We're talking about sort of how your progressive politics have developed over time. And speaking of your politics, like you have done interviews with AOC, Bernie Sanders, Zohran Mamdani, but also you sat down with figures like Theo Von, and most recently, at least at the time of this conversation, the Nelk brothers,
The Nelk
Boys, right after they after they had interviewed Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was something. It was something. What's your thought process behind engaging both progressive politicians and people who share similar politics to you, as well as more conservative or questioning figures like the Nelk Boys and Theo Von?
So I bracket those guys off as like, I guess, apolitical. Like in the, they represent the median voter quite well, as a matter of fact. Especially
you just to pause. You mean you bracket someone like Theo Von more as apolitical, or you consider the Nelk Boys apolitical as well?
No, I'm saying that they're conservative, but they're not a mouthpiece for the party in the same way that like the Daily Wire is, or the same way that Charlie Kirk is. So those guys are. Nelk is probably at the tail end of this. Like that's the closest to the Daily Wire and the PragerU of the world. Whereas like the Theo Vons and Andrew Schultz and all of these other podcasts, like they just kind of go along with the wind, and they will find themselves swept away with like right wing sentiment. I mean, to a certain degree, one might even consider it to be grifting, I guess. But I think it's more so just like
it definitely grift. I think what he's saying is actually correct, so I'm not actually mad at what he's saying here either. But I'll allow him to continue. I do think he's making a good point here.
Like someone who doesn't have a well-defined political worldview. The reason why I consider them in a separate category than like the Daily Wires of the world and the Charlie Kirks of the world, the Fox News of the world, is because like those guys are deliberately doing right-wing political propaganda, and their entire job relies on them being a consistent defender of the Republican Party and reactionary thought. Whereas a lot of these other podcasters, they will change their attitude. While they command influence and attention within the base of support for the Republican Party, they will change their perspective. As they'll jump ship, I guess, far before any Republican commentator ever would. They're easier to convince, and therefore their audiences are easier to convince.
Correct. It's all, again, that's why I disagree with your initial notion about the value of optics and the Democrats not focusing on optics. They aren't, and these people are easy to convince. You just have to make it understandable on like what issues should be cared about, why it's important, why issues that are trying to be used as a tool to get votes are not as big of an issue. Like there's a lot of like things to play around there, and the Democrats just haven't been as effective, and they're getting better at it for sure. They're definitely getting better at
it. Is that something you take into account then when sort of like debating these guys or having or like streaming with them or talking to them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something I take into account. I know for a fact that Charlie Kirk's audience is coming in specifically to watch him dominate someone like a liberal, whereas like I don't think Theo Von's audience is that invested in politics at all. Even if they're seeing an expression of politics, they're not reading it as political. They're just mostly looking at it on moral terms, like Israel. Theo Von is very obviously very open about his distaste for what Israel has done in Gaza. He's called it a genocide. He'll still go and interview J.D. Vance, but even in that interview, he'll bring that up. He'll bring that. He'll call into question. And I think like he is a better demonstration of what the average American feels like.
It makes me think about.
That's a good point. I agree.
I don't know if you're keeping up with Joe Budden all the time, but thinking about how Mark Lamont Hill, like writer, scholar, this guy's, he knows his stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he's been doing that kind of sort of public intellectual work for a long time. And now he's on Joe Budden's kind of video podcast and
he's killing it.
But it's a similar philosophy to what you're describing.
I texted him about literally what you're telling me right now.
He is doing a lot of good job. I reacted to the conversation he had regarding the Project 2025 guy, and he was doing a good job. I do think his like super pro-black stuff, Here's the thing is, like, there is oftentimes when people are so hell-bent on these specific principles they're advocating for that when it comes down to it, I will never fully agree with this because I'm never going to be on that kind of like extreme that every single way thing that you're proposing is just like good for your specific demographic or ideology or group that you're associated with, right? Like Mark Lamont Hill is super, super, super pro-black. However, there is so much value in hearing that voice and utilizing that voice in combination with a different voice to see where the common ground should be and entertaining that different perspective to create a good solution for the whole of America, because America at the end of the day is a mixture of so much, and that mixture provides a lot of nuance and it provides a lot of different perspectives that can create this great marketplace of ideas, or it should, right? So there's value there, especially my biggest thing when I'm talking or aligning with certain individuals is intent. And oftentimes it's hard to figure out what people's intent are. So you have to really see their historical record of how they speak, their tone, as well as what they advocate for and the consistency in their advocation, right? You can see someone like Charlie Cook and realize that he has said maybe some things in the past that were like good for America. Then he was super against this one thing. But the moment his side, Donald Trump, decides to do that same thing and then he changes his tune, tells you exactly that his goal is power, not the American people and their best interests. So you have to like keep track of the record and kind of see what they truly want out of the world and who they want it for. That is tough, and I don't blame people. That's why it's like, if I can make this a job, it's my job to articulate that kind of trail of receipts and foundational principles that lean into who they really are.
Other day where I was like, bro, it's crazy how, like it's crazy how appreciative I am of what you're doing, because like it's what I do every day, which is like butt heads with some of the dumbest people. But you have to keep your composure. He's still good at disarming his opponent and then like getting his point across. I really appreciate that.
That makes me wonder, like the way that you're thinking about what Mark Lamont Hill is doing, and also like kind of how you described how you think about a lot of this sort of mass audience of a lot of times guys who think of themselves as apolitical, right? Who do you think your audience is, and what do you think they see in you?
My audience is pretty diverse. I would say it's like a quarter female, 75% male, which is definitely a much higher percentage of female fans than.
And we know why he has a high. In this video reaction, the amount of times I complimented how handsome Hasan is, it's actually hilarious. Shout out Hasan. Shout out you. You got a lot of compliments from a very straight heterosexual male who understands when another man is very handsome. So Hasan just got so many compliments from me in this video in terms of how he looks. Shout out. But it's true. Everything I said is true, for sure.
Most of the other content creators in the space that I occupy, because Twitch is like very male dominated, white male dominated. Yeah, that's what my audience profile is as well. It's 18 to 35-year-old men for the most part. And a lot of them are white, a lot of them are atheists, they're agnostic, a lot of them are in college and education, or have just started their jobs.
But what do you think they are looking for from you? What do you think they like see in you that keeps them engaged?
I think that they want a shared space. They want a sense of community because they see everything that's going on in their in the world, and they feel as though, at least this is what I think that I serve the purpose of. They see all of this stuff happening in the news and they're like, this makes me angry. Why is no one communicating the anger that I'm experiencing? And I think they see me as someone who goes, someone who has shared values to a lot of these people, where they go, oh, I get it. This guy gets me. This guy gets exactly what I'm upset about. I've never heard someone verbalize my anger in this way. I've never heard someone communicate exactly my desires in this way. I felt lonely before. I didn't realize that there were other people who also felt this exact same way. That's my job. And my job is also to obviously inform people. So I think a lot of people see what I have to do as almost like Zoomer NPR, where they just tune in and they get some of their news while I'm in the background while they're doing chores or at work.
That's where I have problems with Hasan. The way he gives out his news is very shaky.
To you, as someone who could possibly be that person, or who is that person, I don't know. But I wonder, do you think that the Joe Rogan of the left is like the right solution to push for?
No. And I keep repeating to people that the Joe Rogan of the left is a silly thing to look for. I'm sorry, I just put gum in my mouth.
Because
I agree. It is a silly thing to look for. And Hasan definitely would be a terrible person for that. I'm not gonna lie. But it is a silly thing to look for. We don't need a Joe Rogan of the left. We don't need a Joe Rogan of the right.
Break it down first.
Almost done. I just took 2 every time. I'm a bit of an addict. I'm a nicotine addict. So if I don't have nicotine gum or Zyn,
yeah, so they don't understand.
I have oral fixation. Okay. People keep asking me about whether or not we need a Joe Rogan of the left, or whether or not I am the Joe Rogan of the left. And I keep repeating to the Democrats, at least, that like a Joe Rogan is not going to solve their problems. They need to change their policies. They need to actually, do real politics, which is so strange for me to say. But I love that, like, all of the advice I've given to Democratic consultants, the CNN, to NBC, CBS, and every other outlet that's interviewed me, there was a guy out there who actually was organically doing exactly the things that I was saying, and he had tremendous success in the Democratic primary in the New York mayoral race. His name is Zohran Mamdani.
Zohran Mamdani, yeah.
Yeah, and he did that. He went out, he asked people, why did you vote for Trump? Or he asked people, like, what are some of your biggest concerns?
Is he trying to take credit for Mamdani's success? Maybe he's telling the truth. I have no idea. I don't watch everything Hasan puts out. So,
and people looked at that and were like, okay, that sounds great. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
I mean, it was a very effective message. Everywhere I went in New York after a while, because I live here, you could see, obviously, his, his posters everywhere or whatever. But also, it was like, I would see a sign that said fast and free buses, universal childcare. These are all, I could rattle off his talking points after a while because they were so easy to remember. They've been so well packaged. They were very policy based. The public, a lot of political commentators have interpreted Zohran Mamdani's win as some sort of grand surprise. But it sounds like what you're saying is these are kinds of the things that you think that the Democratic Party and Democratic politicians should have been embracing for a long time.
I've been saying it. I've been saying it. Bernie's been saying it. People say, I don't think they're unpacking it correctly, by the way. No disrespect to your colleagues or no disrespect to the members of traditional media, but I think they've either deliberately taken an obtuse framework here.
This is so I feel like he's more radical when he's on stream. So that's why this whole I'm genuine thing is just not hitting for me. But okay.
Or they just it's completely outside of their scope of imagination, because I watch more news than people's racist grandparents do. I watch more Fox News than people's grandpas do, straight up. And I watch more CNN. I even watch Morning Joe, which I feel like is the oldest somehow. It's even older than Fox News audience. In any case, I see all of this commentary, and I think what they're saying is they only identify Zohran's victory with he's young, he's charismatic, and he did good social media. Yeah. All 3 of those things are true, right? But they only played a role in highlighting the platform policies that he had. It's actually the policies that caused people to pay attention to him. That was what was first and foremost the most important thing, because no one knew who Zohran was. It's not like people were young Cardamom fans ahead of time and they were like, oh my God, that's my favorite.
Also, the other 2 Democratic candidates were so terrible. It's a combination of two factors, right? Because the Eric Adams was corrupt and Cuomo was corrupt. And then Mamdani had these ideas that I do think were good, and he got out there, and it's very populist, and it appeals to the to people. Now, will these be implemented? Probably not. But there might be something to say to allow yourself to push more extreme things. Let's say Joe Biden did or Kamala Harris did have a presidency where she tried to push, we're gonna do $15 minimum wage, right? We know that they tried to put it in before it got shut down because they couldn't get a majority. But just knowing that this is something you're going to attempt, then the media circle is always going to focus on how that is going, and they're going to know who to go after. So there might be something towards, this is my ambition. I'm going to constantly try it. I'm going to let you know I'm trying it, and whoever doesn't agree with me, you know who they are. There might be something to that for sure.
Rapper, I can't, I'm so glad he's running for mayor.
What you're saying too, it makes me think about something else. I mean, there's been this idea, I think pretty much since 2016, but it's really picked up a lot of steam, especially since 2024 election, that the Democratic Party or the left, progressive politics in general, are just too woke, too PC for young men to feel comfortable, to feel like they can engage, because they're so worried that they're going to say or do the wrong thing.
Sorry, people, I have gotten food, and I know how much you guys hate when I eat while I'm recording, but man, gotta eat. You feel me? All right, let's
get canceled. There's been kind of a popular line of thought that in order to capture young men and to get young men invested in politics, or to get young men invested in a politician enough to want to go vote for them, that they need to engage in some of the bro stuff that we discussed earlier, really trying to just signify and code as many things as possible. But when I think about Zohran Mamdani's specific brand of masculinity, it feels so not what so many people's knee-jerk reaction has been. He's a guy, he's walking the streets, he's in a suit, he's telling you fast and free buses, universal child care, and rent freeze. I don't know, I'm wondering, what do you make of that? That there's this popular train of thought that we got to embrace sort of bro aesthetics to get young men invested in politics. With Zohar Mamdani's win, where he actually did engage a lot of young male voters, and he also is a young man himself who's not embodying this idea of what a lot of, both political commentators and armchair theorists alike think that the left should be embracing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's correlated. I think this is a false equivalency because Zoran is not really pushing anything that is anti that demographic. The whole issue that people have with like woke stuff is that they think that white men are the problem with society, is the general sentiment. I don't think Mamdani has done anything like that. There has been issues with stuff he said in the past that was like anti-Jewish, but anti-white men, not so much. I don't think.
I think he was just being himself, and that's what's important. And here's another guy who's always being himself, uncompromisingly, in an unyielding manner, who is also incredibly affable, someone that people love. His name is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is not this incredibly beloved figure in American politics and has like a broad appeal across political ideologies because he's super sexy or because he's just really good at social media. He's like incredibly charismatic. Like, no disrespect to Unc, but Bernie is very old. But the reason why people like him is because he is an earnest communicator, and he has been an incredibly stubborn guy for all of his life, for his entire life. He's always been anti-establishment. He's always advocated for select policies that you can very easily identify. He is defined by what he is advocating for. And I think
I agree with this. I think Hasan is correct about the appeal of Bernie Sanders.
Politicians need to remember that. That's what they need to do, because ultimately that's what we want. I'm not going to Wendy's because I really want to read what's on the menu. I'm going to Wendy's to get a Baconator. Okay. And I think people forget that in politics. Like, your job is the policies, put the policies in the bag, put the policies in the bag. I don't care about anything else. I only care about what you can do for me. And I want the Democrats to remind themselves of this, because Republicans certainly know that is the way to win elections. They will either create hysteria surrounding issues where they will actively position vulnerable populations and minorities as like the vector of hate and the reason for all of the things that are going wrong in American society. And then they'll actively.
Again, this is why I disagree with Hasan's earlier point. Democrats do have policies that they advocate for, but they're so specific and nuanced that they do not relate to the American people. But that's why you got to make it relatable. Like, if you're going to fix the infrastructure or if you're going to fix housing, you need to make it very clear that I'm going to fix housing. This is why. And someone who has like never gone to college, dropped out of high school, working at a farm should be able to perfectly articulate what that message is. That's optics. They do have policy. We know for a fact they have policy. Joe Biden has passed a lot of stuff in his Democratic presidency. I think the disconnect here is Hasan doesn't believe they don't have policy because they're not pushing his policy. That's why. And that's why it's like disingenuous in terms of how he talks about the Democratic Party.
Write legislation to harm them. But that's something that they're offering to their bases, whereas the Democratic Party refuses to do that, and oftentimes even refuses to recognize that people are angry, or even sometimes will say there's only certain forms of anger that are appropriate. Your kind of anger is actually an expression of male rage, let's say, and therefore inappropriate or something. I don't know. It's just like, it's perceived as smug, elitist, entitled, and completely out of touch by a lot of people. And I think it's not just men in general. There are a lot of people feel this way about the Democrats. And the best possible way to stop that is by just being normal, being chill.
People like you do that way more. I mean, you're the reason why people perceive that. What? Don't you guys that kind of pisses me off, because that was so tone deaf to like what you do that it definitely irritates me. The problem is that they believe Democrats were too focused on appealing to certain people. That's why DEI is stigmatized. That's why trans stuff is stigmatized. That's why immigrants are stigmatized, because the MAGA thinks they care too much about that side. And then you're pushing messaging that they don't care about that side. So you think they don't care about that. MAGA thinks they care too much about that. That's the problem, right? There's a disconnect there, because you're not helping on the perception of Democrats.
Being someone that's fun to be around and genuinely caring about improving people's material circumstances, because that's at the end of the day.
when you're talking about policies and the right, Republicans' approach to that, it makes me think about the fact that, like, since Trump's been in office, like, we've seen countless ramifications, right, for the things that he's promised: immigration enforcement, cuts to federal disaster aid, cuts to Medicaid. If you're online as much as I am, then you've seen the gamut of reactions from Americans, like, all across the political spectrum. A lot of people are not happy, but I wonder how has this moment maybe influenced how you want to speak and who you're trying to reach?
Oh, it hasn't changed my rhetoric or strategy even remotely, because I literally said that this was going to happen. As a matter of fact, I said that this was going to happen after Trump wins, before Trump even won. I've been saying this for the past 10 years. I've seen this cycle play itself out every single time. Republicans think they like a policy because the Republican politicians whip up hysteria surrounding a thing that they claim is happening. And the most common example of this is migrant crime. Or before, it was always white supremacist versions of that, specifically that was like anti-black, right?
What you're saying reminds me of that Lyndon B. Johnson quote. If you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you.
And that's true. I mean, white supremacy is
That's a good quote. That's a good quote.
Is a fairly important motivating principle. But I think that the most adequate solution against that is not simply to say, like, oh, this person is a white supremacist and these people can never change their positions or whatever. I come at this from a place of understanding that we are all victim to social conditioning, and that if we are to understand, as leftists, as progressives, that America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted country, then it's understandable that there's going to be expressions of
Wait, what?
Social conditioning, and that if we are to understand, as leftists, as progressives, that America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted country, then it's understandable that there's going to be expressions of said bigotry that is left dormant in a lot of people who have not explored or gone on a political journey, and kind of just like take all of these pre-existing social constructs for granted as though it is the norm. And possibly because I am a privileged person, I'm a straight that America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted country, then
hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you.
And that's true.
Notice you're picking that Lyndon B. Johnson quote.
Versions of that, specifically that was like anti-black, right?
What you're saying reminds me of that Lyndon B. Johnson quote. If you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you.
And that's true. I mean, white supremacy is a fairly important motivating principle. But I think that the most adequate solution against that is not simply to say, like, oh, this person is a white supremacist and these people can never change their positions or whatever. I come at this from a place of understanding that we are all victim to social conditioning, and that if we are to understand, as leftists, as progressives, that America is a racist, sexist, homophobic, bigoted country, then it's understandable that there's going to be expressions of said bigotry that is left dormant in a lot of people who have not explored or gone on a political journey, and kind of just like take all of these pre-existing social constructs for granted as though it is the norm. And possibly because
maybe I'm missing something here. So if you understand, I'm going to make this a clip. If you understand what he was saying, let me know in the comment section. So this is my perception. That's why I feel like he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. He said we should understand and help white supremacists change their mind. I think that is a very fair thing to say. So, shout out Gideon. He did a video showcasing that there's more human to both of us. There's also a very prolific black man who did the same with a KKK leader. So sure, I agree. And then you also said he's like, we can't just dismiss the white supremacists, either in this quote or a prior quote. But then you said it was social conditioning. Then you said leftists know that America is a bigoted, racist, homophobic country. So now I'm like, wait, if you recognize that this is a situation where they are being led to believe this, and then you're also saying that this country is a certain way, it sounds like you're saying it's not your fault that you're racist because you live in a country that is racist. Now, who makes the country racist? Well, you make the country racist. And the systems that are here make the country racist. So you're racist because of the system and people like you. Like I'm not. There's a disconnect in my mind on what he's trying to say. Like, if you realize that there's more to it, shouldn't you be trying to help push the message that there is more to it to change it? But you're again, this is just another chance for you to shit on America. And the white supremacist is going to hear you and go like, wait, you're calling my country racist. And that's why he's going to ignore what you have to say. So you're preaching understanding, but it sounds like you're not understanding. It sounds like you are doing exactly what you're criticizing. Let me know what your perception of him saying that, because that it just sounded weird when he said it. I was like, bro, there's something that's not clicking to me when he's talking about trying to appeal to these people.
I am a privileged person. I'm a straight white man. I guess like the only line of attack in that regard is usually
Is he white?
the fact that I'm Muslim, you know, and Turkish. But from my position of privilege, I guess I am more comfortable to be able to say this. But I recognize and can be a little bit more forgiving of people's, I guess, micro aggressions and people's issues and be able to work through that. I can take on this emotional labor because it's not as exhausting for someone like myself, because it doesn't directly impact me in that way. And I understand that everyone has what I like to call privilege blind spots. There's an intersectionality to oppression. There's an intersectionality to privilege. And I think everyone has some kind of a privilege blind spot. Like many Americans, as a matter of fact, for example, have the blind spot of being a part of the labor aristocracy, that they are beneficiaries of the unequal exchange that we have from the global South, where they are immediately in a much better material circumstance than like someone living in the DRC, someone, you know, someone living in the global South that's seeing a lot of conflict, someone living in Yemen, for example. And we have sometimes animosity towards people like this without even realizing that we have this. So like I try to work people through that by showcasing the humanity of people in the global South, by trying to
Do you try to work people through this? Does he do this? I don't know. What is this version of Hasan that he's trying to create in this interview? I haven't seen that version of Hasan. I feel like I'm watching an interview of Donald Trump where it's like he's saying all the right things, but this is not an actuality of who he is. Now, he may try to humanize people from other countries, but it doesn't help when you're trying to humanize other people by shitting on the country that you benefit from. It's like a, you know how there's that the conversation between the Jubilee billionaire and everybody else? And I did think the billionaire said some good things, but there is like a detachment on like certain things that billionaire is going through and try to equate it with what a poor person's going through. It just doesn't sit right. It just feels like this is condescending.
give them a voice. That is how I work through it, because I come at it from an understanding that like everyone has like some kind of a blind spot, and it's not because they're truly evil people. And I don't subscribe to good bad dynamics when it comes to politics. I understand that people are just simply
What is this cat, bro? What is this cat? Oh, this guy's a motherfucking liar. Oh my goodness. Oh man, Hasan is capping crazy.
victim to their social conditioning, or just a kind of.
What is that one video clip you said about liberal people from Israel? Oh, I don't subscribe to good versus evil. And then he said that weird thing he said about, oh man, if I had time, I would go look this up, man. If I was live on stream, I'll just look it up. But oh man, you guys know what I'm talking about. What the
Going
fuck
along
is he
and trying to survive every single day without really reading too much into how sociopolitical constructs have been defined and exist in society, and how that might impact them and others around them.
Getting outside of the current news cycle, you spend a lot of time online. I think that's an understatement. And as somebody who also spends a lot of time online, I'm sure that you also have seen so many things that were sort of like casual, sort of online or social media trends, or sort of currents that you saw bubbling up in culture become extremely politically relevant over the past like 5 or so years. I'm wondering, like, I don't know, what are you seeing or noticing right now that, you know, maybe the everyday person isn't familiar with, that you think that they should be paying attention to because it might become extremely politically or culturally relevant, you know, very, very soon in ways that they might not be thinking about?
Ooh, I mean, I was just thinking about this the other day, but I feel like young conservatives, especially those who work in politics, are definitely a lot more right wing, like ideologically invested in I would say far right Nazi stuff, or you know, Catholic nationalism or whatever, like Christian dominionism, like whatever iteration of far right ideology they've developed for themselves. It's usually a manifestation of fascism, and I think that there's a lot more people, especially in politics, that are under the age of 35 on the Republican side, that abide by these principles and live out those desires than we think. So I say watch the space. There's also another thing that I've been noticing where pure reactionary politics have basically turned into this incredible endeavor where it's so hyper focused on
A political thing that people are not focused on too much, I would say, is definitely a lot, or in terms of like the average American, because I constantly have to tell people what is going on in politics right now and try to inform them. And the easy answer to that would have been just gerrymandering, the whole gerrymandering or redistricting stuff that is going on. But like Hasan picked like fascists, I guess. I don't know. Like, there's a growing sentiment of fascists that is popping up because MAGA is enabling them, just like how Democrats would enable the woke left. But to be fair, you know what? I'm gonna actually agree with Hasan because I've done. I have a video coming out. I've also already did a podcast episode about like Donald Trump's deep state that nobody talks about. So people like Curtis Yarvin, Peter Thiel, Stephen Miller, like there are okay. If that's what Hasan is talking about, then I agree. Yeah, I agree.
owning the libs and like getting a reaction out of liberals. That nowadays I think there is nowadays any sort of reaction, no matter what direction it is, like disgust, revulsion, is still, I think, considered a positive in like conservative circles.
Interesting. So it's not even about like when you talk about owning the libs, I think like about like those Jubilee videos where people go on and like debate 50 people or something like that. That's a whole other conversation. But what you're saying is sort of like anything. It's almost like reminds me of like, I don't know, when my younger sister and I used to fight when we were children. And it's like anything that irritates you is a win for me.
Yes. And any kind of irritation is a win. It doesn't matter what the punishment is for yourself, what the penalties are for yourself that you're incurring in the process. It's just you made them react. You made them react in a negative fashion, and that's good.
And that's enough.
It's like a child. I think we're getting dumber. That's the other thing. I think we're just getting dumber and dumber. We have no interest in the arts.
Are we getting dumber? It's hard to say. I think the biggest thing is I think people are believing they're more intelligent than they are and allowing misinformation to dictate what they think, and are getting kind of conflating knowledge that they are acquiring through the mass amounts of internet and media coverage that is constantly being fed into them. And by not being able to understand or conceptualize it, they are saying so much more wrong information, basically. So the problem really is like we are getting exposed to more and more dumb opinions, but also that people feel like they know more than they actually do. I feel like if you, back in the day when people just didn't know anything, they didn't have such strong opinions, but now people do, and they would say fucking stupid shit with the strongest of convictions.
We have no interest in culture. Everything is turned into content. Movies are content now. Everything is TikTok aura moments. Movies are being made for TikTok aura moments. All of that, I think, is just lowering the standards for everything else.
I wonder, what's the alternative?
I don't know. I don't know what the alternative is. I think taking a step back, taking a breather, becoming a Luddite.
What's the alternative in terms of social media and internet? I mean, it's just being able to understand and conceptualize the different amounts of information that is given to you, as well as being able to grow up like millennials, like myself, teaching kids the nuances and the ways to navigate the internet in a more effective way. I mean, there are so many things to say about this, Hasan. You've been on the internet way too long to not understand the best ways to navigate the internet. If you don't have an answer, who the fuck? How's like? Come on, Hasan, Jesus, you can't be like whatever.
Deciding that there's too much technological progress and
getting a dumb phone.
Yeah, it's important to just like kind of scale down your over reliance on tech. Not that I do that. I mean, I don't do that. I'm live every single day. I mean, I kind of do that for AI. Like, I don't use any AI whatsoever. That's just like I have not used.
Not using innovative technologies is not a means to become smarter. It's being able to utilize it in an effective way with context and being able to understand the inefficiencies and the consequences is what matters the most, right? So, you know, just like how people are kind of pointing out now, being able to understand when mainstream media is all they're trying to do is get your attention, your clicks, and your viewership. People are getting better at noticing that and getting better at noticing clickbait or titles, but still, it's still not where it should be.
use any AI. I think I've like been on ChatGPT one time for a video or something. I just don't like it. I don't like it at all. And maybe it's because I'm old. I'm 33 years old. Maybe I'm a boomer. But I think that
old. That's funny.
Well, in my line of work, that's you're dead. You know, they ask like the young MBA recruits what age is unk, and they say like anything past 25 is unk. Yeah.
I think I was 31 the first time that a younger colleague called me their OG. So yeah, I mean, it does sneak up on you. It does sneak up on you.
Yeah, you go past 25, you're unk or on.
The people in my comments have called me unk. So, you know, I'm so old. I bet people don't even know how old I am. I wonder how old they think I am. I bet they're going to say something crazy.
Or OG, it's over.
I got one last question. I'm just purely curious. I have not indicated that you've given me any type of clues. But, you know, I mean, you are extremely invested in politics. You've got this gigantic audience. It's only growing. One of our producers, Alexis, her mom watches you.
That's crazy.
Like, yeah, like you listen, you're getting intergenerational with it. Or at least there's definitely potential there to continue to grow. I wonder, like, I don't know, would you ever run for office? Would that be something you'd be interested in?
No, it's not. People ask me now.
That's all we got. That's all we got. If Hasan ran for office, I would not fucking vote for him. No. No, NPR. No! That's all we got. Like, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed. You know what? I'm gonna look in the comment section. Hasan told people to brigade the comments. Reminder, this is the guy who claimed that if the Houthis bombed random ships unrelated to Israel, then Israel would not get their Amazon packages on time, and thus Israel would leave. He then later said they would go back to Brooklyn if life got too hard for them in Israel. The most legendary question, old enough to count, old enough to mount. Like Hasan, like people are pulling up quotes from Hasan, and I'm glad, because he tried to make it seem like he's this nuanced, understanding individual. He's just not. This is just not true. Why are we losing public funding? Also, NPR. On today's show, we have a terrorist sympathizer. Yo, comments are cooking. Let's go. 10 toes down with Houthis. Doesn't matter if grape happened. The guy should be on every list. Should have asked him about his visit to the brothel in Germany that got raided for trafficking. Oh, did everyone forget about that? Ooh. This man said there was no photo evidence of great victims by Hamas. Bro, they're cooking. Oh, keep going. Keep going, comment section. It's lovely to see Hasan Piker, the famed terrorist sympathizer and re-education camps guy, gets no pushback for NPR. Now that's some himbo class. Disgusting platforming this monster. I see Hasan still can't talk without mumbling at a low-level vocal 95% of the sentence. I feel like I mumble a lot too, to be fair, so I can't even blame Hasan for that. Really went live and told his supporters come to the comment section and say nice things about him. This is not the guy you want on your platform, your face, and defund it. Oh, you know, low key, should I watch the video of Hasan reacting to Destiny? I feel like that would be perfect contrast to the bullshit he was trying to pull this entire interview. Let's find it. Hasan reacts to Destiny on CNN.
Roku Ads Manager puts Roku's reach within your reach. Sign up at ads.roku.com.
Like in the case of Destiny, if he wasn't so purely spike driven, I think he could continuously be a debate mercenary that sees a tremendous amount of success. If he piece on the debate sphere, I guess.
Yeah, I just got escorted from Brian Kirk, baby.
We're in Tampa, Florida for Turning Point USA's annual Student Action Summit. TP USA is a voter-driving juggernaut for the Republican Party, led by 31-year-old Charlie Kirk.
They're happy. That's why, they haven't been on social media.
But this year's event will be menaced by something called the Un-F America Tour, started by a group of progressive influencers and organizers, including the massively popular streamer Destiny.
This is all roads lead to Rome, right? He can do the exact same thing if Biden couldn't get away with doing it.
They want to bring progressive debate to Kirk's doorstep. But first, they have to get in.
So Turning Point is...
Okay, I don't want to rewatch this. I already watched all of this.
Funny, I'm debating Charlie Kirk at Dartmouth University next month.
Now they're trying to sneak in.
I am going to... Oh, that's going to be great content. Will it be a good debate? Fuck no. But it'll be great content. Oh, can't wait for that one. I'm just curious to see what Hasan says about all of this.
Destiny, so he can debate inside here.
I like that these guys are like, this is our weapon. This is our secret weapon. If only If only Destiny will just like engage in spirited debate against Charlie Kirk. If only we can do this. If we can unleash what is he gonna do? Charlie Kirk and film it? Like, what do you mean?
What a streamer Destiny sued over cyber sexual harassment court documents. A personal attack, but Hasan's about all this like goodness and all that stuff. I mean, it is an allegation. I wonder if he keeps the same energy for like Shannon Sharp's allegation. But
If only we can get compromising footage of Destiny. Yeah, he's gonna do a revenge on Charlie Kirk.
Revenge porn.
So Destiny has made it inside the building.
Debate is equivalent to sneaking a dragon slayer into the den of the beast. I know. Ugh. Yeah. He's gonna agree with Charlie Kirk that the left is actually responsible for Kamala losing, and also that he's gonna agree with Charlie Kirk on the Israel stuff.
Honestly, I'm pro side. Like it sounds really shitty, but like I think that Israel should just drop its fucking borders about where it is now, and basically Palestinians can go live in another place. That's really, but like that's about where I'm at.
You just think of Palestine to just
Hasan using a joke from Destiny to thinks that he's okay with genocide. Yo, Hasan is such a bad faith piece of shit. Oh my god, bro. Like, if he unironically said that, sure, but like, I've heard enough from Destiny saying that he thinks that Israel's being unhinged. He just doesn't think it's a genocide.
If you see a soldier, okay, go into a drawer, and listen, if you want to wear a dress and you think it's funny, just don't take a video picture of it, okay? Jesus. Okay, yeah. We love to see it, though. We love to see it.
Oh,
It's
God.
great.
Oh, gross. Oh, my God.
And to say Destiny would agree with Charlie Kirk is wild. I don't think he would agree with Charlie Kirk at all. I mean, especially current Israel is wild. I don't know. Destiny's not really an agreeable person in debate. Not really. Not from
Do you
what
agree
I've
with him on
seen.
white people being able to say the N-word?
We're Student Action Summit. We got Destiny and Myron here today. Have a little friendly conversation.
Yeah,
man.
Good to see you, bro. Young people may be tuning out the news, but this new form of live, provocative political debate.
I sound like I'm caping for Destiny a lot, but I just like what throws me off for this is like I have issues with Destiny. Like I have videos you could find on my channel where I'm calling out Destiny. And my issue is like Hasan tries to pretend that he's like this saint that believes in all these like good things and believes that there's no good versus evil, and he's all this. He's such a good guy on the platform, and that's just not true. The whole entire comment section knew that was just not true.
He's like, the biggest problem is not racism because obviously I'm racist. So that would be like admitting that, you know, my kind of thinking is what's wrong, what's like held Black America back. He just stole
Oh, I agree. I said the same thing. Charlie Cooker's racist. He definitely is.
Carter's whole flow. No, I know.
When exactly do heart waves?
Front are rudderless neoliberals who constantly find themselves catering to the white nativist.
Oh man, I don't feel like watching the rest of it. Oh, I already proved that Hasan is not this good person that he tries to pretend to be. With that said, that's all I got. Hasan, I agreed with some Hasan stuff, so I wasn't mean to Hasan the entire interview. Like some things that I did agree with Hasan. So that's all I got. You have a good one. Take care. Peace.